In this next video, I'm going to show you how you can draft a shirt collar and also a shirt collar with a separate stand. You can see a number of shirt collars here. And these are the pattern pieces for the separate stand and the shirt collar. To begin with, you'll need to measure the neckline, and that's the neckline on your block. So you'll take your front and your back, and you've got your half back neckline here and half the front neckline here. If you're using the close fitting bodice block to draft a collar, you'll need to reduce the neckline by 1 centimetre in full scale. Only lower the front neckline if you're using the close fitting bodice block. If you're using the shirt block, the neckline has already been lowered for you. When you're measuring the neckline, place the tape measure up on its side. That will make it much more accurate and you'll be able to measure around the curve. So I'll be measuring around the curve of the front and then continuing and measuring around the curve of the back. I'm going to draft the collar in full scale. We'll start by drawing a rectangle and then we'll adapt that into the shape of the collar and the collar stand. Draw a line across from 1 to 2 that measures half the neck measurement. My neck measurement's 38 centimetres, so half of that's 19. So I'll draw a line from here to here. Measure from 1 to 3 the depth of the collar stand plus the depth of the collar. I'm going to take that to be 9 centimetres. So that's the measurement of the stand and the measurement of the width of the collar. And I want to finish my rectangle by measuring up from point 2, 9 centimetres as well. And joining those together. And check that you have got a rectangle at that point. That should measure half of your neck measurement. Measure across from point 1, 3/4 of the distance from 1 to 2. And square up from point 4. From point 2, measure up half a centimetre to point 5. And join point 4 to point 5. Measure up from point 1, half the measurement from 1 to 3, minus 1 centimetre. And we'll call that 6. And square across from 6. And call that point 7. Measure in from point 7, 0.75 centimetres. To point 8. And then draw in your collar outline from point 3 round to point 8. Follow the line from 4 to 5 and keep going 1.5 centimetres or the width of your button stand. We'll call that point 9. The line from 2 is the centre front line. Mark on here the buttonhole. I'm going to mark mine roughly centrally between point 7 and 5. You can measure that to be more accurate. Draw your buttonhole parallel to the line from 4 to 9. And you want your buttonhole to extend the centre front line by 3 millimeters and come back inside, so the width of that is 1.5 centimeters. And join the line from 7 to 9 with a curve. I can use this pattern piece to create a collar with stand as one whole pattern piece. So I'll trace that off and add seam allowance. Make sure you've got plenty of room around to add your seam allowance. This is the centre back, which would be cut on the fold, so I won't add the seam allowance at this point. And I'll cut out the pattern piece. This is my finished piece, and you'd probably want to also make some other markings on here. I could add some notches onto the edge of the collar, and you may want to add some notches along this line here to help you match it to the neckline of your shirt. Next, I'll show you how you can continue drafting and separate the collar and stand. If I go back to my original drawing, I can continue drafting from here to separate the collar part from the stand. Measure up from point 6, 0.75 centimetres. And mark that point 10. Then draw a line from 10 to the line coming up from 4 with a slight curve. I'm going to come out straight to begin with and then bring that line down to meet the line from 4. And allocate a notch somewhere along that line. This will help you to match the collar to the collar stand. And now I'll trace off the collar and the stand separately. I'll start with the collar. That starts from point 10 up to 3. And add the rest of the markings. So this is my pattern piece for the collar, and next I'll trace the pattern piece for the collar stand. and that goes from point 1 to point 6. Don't forget to include the notch. And these are the pattern pieces for the separate stand and the shirt collar, making sure you put that notch which will match the 2 points across the shirt collar and stand.